Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everybody. What a week to have a podcast about Heroes of the Storm. This is Into the Nexus. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. As you might be able to tell by my voice, I'm a little sick today, because traveling and stuff. But joining me to fill in the gaps between my labored breathing is Kyle Fergusson, and also the monthly return, the triumphant monthly return of Mr. Jeff Kanata. Welcome back, boys.
Thank you.
We're actually back this week. We went somewhere.
We did. So Kyle, you and I, we had to play coy on the Twitters and on this show. You know, we couldn't say where we were going, but now we can talk about it. We went out to Southern California for the Heroes of the Storm Summit, where they showed us Heroes 2.0, which is pretty much going to be the entire damn show today, everyone. If you were expecting deep strategy or emails, or the three of us to get off in like a 15-minute tangent about something from Star Wars, that's probably not going to happen. Well, maybe the Star Wars thing will, because that's hard to stop. But, yeah. And we're back now, and infected from recycled air. So, so Jeff, you were not there, so you're gonna play.
I was not. I went last year's summit, but I did not go to this year's summit. I'm excited to hear what the firsthand account was, but man, the info dump we got. This is some serious business. This is not just, hey, we got some new heroes coming out like last year was. This is 2.0.
Yeah, it was.
It is clear that they had a strategy with us, and by being there, I do feel a responsibility to help everyone not only understand what's going to be happening to your own accounts and these things that you put so much work into, but also I got the opportunity to sort of be drip-fed this information. As we sat in the audience, it was like a mini BlizzCon. And in fact, I think the devs were, staring over the audience as much as they could to just imagine that this wasn't an intimate room of about 40 people exchanging information. Not only did they just do a fantastic job breaking down all these changes that are going to happen that we'll discuss today, but then we had the opportunity to hang out with the devs themselves, ask them questions, hang out with pro players, and start metagaming, which we did pretty hard actually there on the ground with Cassia and everything else that's coming out. It was really exciting.
Yeah, it was a really just cool experience. And there were rumblings. Like, I mean, we were there. We got in the night before, and everyone was hanging out in the hotel lobby, and we were there the next morning in the hotel lobby getting our coffees and everything. And we're all sitting there like, "There's no way they flew us out here just to show us one hero, right?" Because we knew that we were going to be shown a hero. That's what we knew. But that's all we knew. That was the only thing we were told. And we're all sitting there like, they got to have something else, right? And everyone's, trying to think of what it is. And then we go and we sit down, and the thing they lead with is Heroes 2.0. And we're like, all right, this is why they decided to have an event. And it is quite the event. Now, the cool thing, though, is, Kyle, you and I didn't have to sit on that embargo for long because, and also cool to have you here, Jeff. Like, you didn't miss anything. It's already out. You can go try it right now.
Yeah. It's one of those really cool announcements where it's like, hey, we're going to have all this stuff, and you want to play it, go, get on the PTR right this second. You can experience it for yourself. And I have to admit, I'm not one of those guys that spends a lot of time in the PTR. I kind of feel like that's not a good use of my time. I want to play the live game, and it feels like I'm in this weird limbo where nothing means anything when I'm on the PTR. But I was on the PTR this week, these last couple of days, man. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It was funny for me. Like, I didn't really realize how much stuff I didn't think to take note of until maybe 2 hours before tonight's show, and I've been like logging in and out of 2.0 to check things. Like, oh wait, I didn't think about that. Let me log in and see what it is, and so on and so forth.
There's so much stuff. I mean, literally stuff that you can get. There's just so much stuff. And that is so exciting.
It really is just a opening of the floodgates. And this is only the beginning. I mean, you can imagine when you look at something like portraits. Right now you're sitting in there and you're like, oh, how neat. They have the box art from Warcraft 3. I'm going to make that. But all the other boxes are missing, probably because this is the test time. I mean, when they finally say, here you go, and 2.0 continues to grow, it is going to be massive.
Yeah, it's a wonderful combination between what's going on in Overwatch, obviously, with loot boxes and chests and stuff, but also this weird, I feel like there's influence from Hearthstone as well, of this like gotta collect them all, organize your decks, organize your collection. That aesthetic is really, I think, even more than in Overwatch, is on display here.
You hit the nail on the head there, Jeff. I think this kind of is a greatest hits of the gamification of progress over at Blizzard, is what's landing in Heroes of the Storm.
None of them quite highlight what this new system is capable of than a skin I love, which is this battle damage Legacy of the Void Artanis, and he's all scratched up. He's got Zerg blood on him. He has a certain Psy blade on one of his hands. He got himself a haircut. And that sort of minor alteration to a skin would look weird at $5, $3 even. Or what if one of your skins, like the Shogun skin for Artanis, had a fourth tint? Then you're thinking, well, why doesn't all my skins have a fourth tint? All these opportunities are available now to add that customization in. You can do Sonya in her armor, but with her helmet off on some of these. And that simply couldn't exist in the previous purchasable model.
And I hope they go farther with that. I mean, this is something that I brought up in an interview a year, 2 years ago, talking to the devs of like, why can't we mix and match tints? Why can't I have like the lower half tinted these colors and the upper half tinted these? Like, give us more of that. And I feel like they could go even farther with the crafting of the looks. I hope that if this catches on and it's successful and it resonates in the community, that they will push the boundary even further and let you have even more customization with how your characters look.
No, absolutely. Honestly, for me, it comes down to will I get my helmless Arthas back? And anything that gets me closer to that is a plus in my book. But all right, so there's our kind of emotional hot takes on it. Let's move this into news and talk about, well, exactly what it is we will be getting.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Point me to the stage.
Stay a while and listen.
All right, are you ready for some nitty-gritty and some bullet point reading? I hope so. It's going to happen a lot today. So what the heck is Heroes 2.0? Well, it's a pretty pretty like bottom level rework of the overarching experience of Heroes. The gameplay is staying the same, but the menus, the UI, the store, currency, progression is all getting a major overhaul. So we got to start somewhere. Let's start with currency, because the second you talk about that, especially in a free-to-play game, I feel like most seasoned gamers, especially those of us who are a little older and grew up with you pay for a game and that's what you get, and deal with it, you start to get a little nervous when things like currency get brought up. So
yeah, especially when they add more and more types of currencies. Then you get like, we got gems, we got shards, we got rubles. I think we can trade pelts now, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, we're getting a miniature version of Civilization. We're going to have to construct trading posts on it.
Yeah.
No,
two sheep for one brick. I think there's some sort of Catan level trading allowed, I'm sure.
I mean, there are a lot of hexes in both Catan and Heroes of the Storm. So,
gosh, I hope not. And then the heroes you're not using, you're sending on strike missions to get resources back.
Oh, that'd be so good. That'd be so fantastic. So first up is gold. It's going nowhere. Gold is sticking around, and it's sort of losing an application, but gaining an application. So the one application that is not changing is we will still be able to purchase heroes with gold. We're going to earn gold through quests and through hero leveling, as we always have. What's going away, unless Reddit petitions make a difference, is the purchase of master skins. because of the overhaul to skins and the loot system, which we'll detail here in a second. And then the way to use gold that we're gaining is re-rolling loot chests. You'll be able to just pump gold into your loot chest multiple times up to a certain cap to if you don't like what you got, which I have already done on the beta test of 2.0 because I got that freaky deaky freaking monkey Brightwing, and that thing needs to go away and die even on PTR. I don't want to see.
Is this the part where I admit that I paid real human money for the freaky deaky monkey Brightwing skin?
It's not if we want to stay
real
friends.
Real human money.
Real human money. That's a currency we're losing, by the way.
Well, it's just being obfuscated. It's not. We're not losing it.
Yeah, we're getting. Well, to borrow a phrase from Kyle, who borrows the phrase, I believe, from Scott Johnson, we're getting space bucks. Is coming in to heroes. So that's gold. Pretty much the same, except things are changing with master skins, so the way gold influences that is different. But we're also getting gems, which is our real money equivalent, the space buck, if you will. And you're going to be able to use gems to purchase most things in Heroes of the Storm. Loot boxes, heroes, stim packs, featured items like bundles, for example. Kind of like, basically, think about when you go into the hero store right now, the things you can go and kind of buy with real money. Your mounts and whatnot, your bundles, but there are sometimes mounts that are in bundles that are not just in the mount tab, stuff like that. Those would be your featured items. You'll be able to buy those with gems.
And this is the only part of this whole process that sticks in my craw a little bit, because I know the reasoning for this, and it's psychology. And it's a little bit sketchy, in my opinion. It sucks. It's free-to-play 101, but the psychology is when I stare at $9.99 or even $3.99 or whatever the price is, my brain understands what that means. But when I stare at 40 gems, even though that has a real equivalent to human dollars, I psychologically justify the purchase more. And that's been proven over and over. And it disappoints me a little bit that Blizzard is going to resort to that kind of chicanery to make me buy more stuff. And I also am even more upset that it's going to work on me.
And it's a fact of life. It's a fact of free to play. The fun money does work. The actual meat and potatoes of it, though, is that things are going to get cheaper, which is
that's good.
Interesting.
In a sense, right? Like, to a certain degree, the breakdown from what we've seen, courtesy of one of the foreign language Heroes of the Storm posts, if they want to say on Spanish IGN, we got the breakdown of the cost of gems. For some reason, this was not in the video we received or in the blog post.
This had to go from gems to pesos and from pesos to dollars.
The image that was posted was in US dollars. So... but you are absolutely right, Kyle. I'm still, at the end of the day, though, I'm still having to do what I was concerned I was going to have to do, which is if I'm buying gems to buy something with real money, I have to buy a set number of gems at a set price, as opposed to I want a hero, just take exactly how much money it costs for that hero out of my account. Because I'm going to end up with these little hanging gem remainders that are going to drive me insane until the day I die.
And this is, companies like Microsoft a while back did the opposite. They transitioned from space bucks to real dollars to get away from this kind of thing. And I thought that was a good move. And it's just a bummer to me that Blizzard's going the opposite direction. I understand why, and I do appreciate that. As Kyle points out, it's probably going to end up being in my favor at least in the short term of, things are actually going to end up being less expensive monetarily. But I love the company so much and I love the product so much. It just bums me out when they do something that is so transparently meant to deceive me.
Certainly. And your overall prices are likely, with some of these bundles of gems, the more you spend, the more gems you get bonus gems on top of that. And if that's real money, you're getting money back. Prices are falling across the board around 30% on most of the cosmetic, hero, and everything in the game items that you use this currency on. It also means that they can, as on the PTR right now, give event quests and rewards that give gems. And you can understand why that would get weird if you complete a quest and then you get, well, cash? What?
Yeah.
There
You can't
would
do
be
that.
kinda-
I think that might be actually technically illegal.
Yeah, they
But,
would need to convert it in some way, shape, or form, whether it was Blizz Bucks or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we did used to have BattleNet balance. I mean, it's still a thing, although it's no longer BattleNet. It's Blizzard, but the BattleNet site is still up, and the logo's still there. When I need to go like claim a code or something, that's neither here or there. But yeah, like giving actual like cash as a reward, that's just not going to happen. So that is an upside, right? That is something I can point to and say, hey, that's actually kind of cool. That's something they couldn't have done before, and now they can do it. But overall, this is I'm with Jeff. If I had a craw, this is sticking in it. And but overall, it's a rather minor thing. And you know, there's a lot of, I think, very very passionate arguments and voices out on the internet right now about specifically this and some other things. I'm not one of them. I'm not sitting here passionately being like, this is the worst thing ever and it's killing heroes for me. For me, it boils down to, I don't like it, but I don't care. I like the game enough. that's my end game.
I was a little surprised how much my Twitter feed reacted negatively to this, because I saw this stuff and I got really jazzed. I mean, I'm being critical of the gym thing, but ultimately, overall, I think all of these changes really excite me and give me reason. I mean, I'm playing every day anyway because I like, leveling up my own human skill. But to have, I don't think there's any company in gaming that respects the player's time more than Blizzard does. And it's just another example of them going, okay, let's just give you lots of fun carrots on the stick. You know, let's just give you lots of fun little things to constantly reward the time you put in. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead to me feeling good more often when I play.
Yes, and I agree with you there. My only concern is, great, now I'll want to play more. Which is not an issue I was necessarily having before. So, as Kyle said, there are multiple ways to earn gems. The most obvious is to just buy it with your actual money and convert it into, well, gems. It's also rewarded at various points in the game through your account progression and also event quests. And the third and final currency that is being added to the game are shards, and these are used for the new crafting system, and this is extremely similar to Dust in Hearthstone, for example. So if you know how that works, this works pretty similar. So this is going to be used to craft skins, mounts, sprays, banners, announcers, voice lines, emojis, portraits, pretty much every single darn thing in the game can be crafted with shards.
Except for gems and stim packs, I believe, in its current form.
Correct. And you're going to get shards through loot boxes and duplicates in your loot boxes. So very much like duplicate cards on Hearthstone, duplicate items and heroes in Overwatch. That kind of stuff.
It's cool. I like that. I like this part. This part is the most cool part, because now I can be the compulsive mount collector that I've always wanted to be, that I've been hampered by the little $9.99 price of most of the mounts. Now I can just like work my shards up until I can buy all the mounts.
Yeah.
Well, and the real exciting thing is everything, basically, except for promotional items and possibly those, end of season rewards, those will all be available for everyone to actually play the game to get. And that is way better than hiding it behind that actual price.
And guys, there's going to be this magical moment when the switch flips over to 2.0, where all of us that have put in all this time are going to see this like insane waterfall of sort of retroactively awarded things. And it's going to be amazing. We're going to get like, they said up to 70 loot boxes you could get for your past performance. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're capping it at 70, which I'm excited about. And again, go over on Reddit. Some people are mad about this.
It's a bizarre thing. Yeah, the cap. And of course, the more time you put in, there are some theories right now, and they seem to be true, that if you stop playing today, you are going to maximize your chance to get loot boxes when 2.0 goes live. And if you have a brand new account, the incentives to keep going and the amount of loot boxes you get while leveling up that new account dwarf this 70 loot boxes that you receive. Now, the way you're going to be given these 70 loot boxes is your hero levels and your account level are going to plug into this new system, and those new rewards will tally up, maxing out at 70 loot boxes. Many of those will be based on your hero level, which means you'll get hero-specific loot boxes guaranteeing you an item for that hero that you've already got at level 20. It's a bizarre gripe to have for me because I'm coming from, Warcraft 3, where you're like, play the game because you're passionate, you don't get to keep anything. But I certainly understand. I feel like I'm being double rewarded, though. I mean, World of Warcraft expansions come out, I pay money for those. And they say, everything you worked for, slam, it's gone. It's not worth anything anymore.
It's true.
But people encourage that experience. So with this coming out, I feel like I'm going to get double rewarded. I already got all that gold along the way, unlocked all those skins. Now I get to keep everything I previously have and have a chance to unlock all the new stuff as well.
What I'm looking at right now is I have, 2 or 3 heroes at level 9, and I just want to grind those guys up to level 10 and buy their master skins with my gold before it flips over and things are wonky. I feel like that's the good use of my prep time.
And it is,
right?
Because it has protection against duplicates. There's still a chance to get duplicates. The way you get shards is to get a duplicate in the box outside of just unlocking them in the loot box itself. So there's a chance for that, but if you already own the skins, you have a lesser chance to unlock them in the first place. I don't really know what the right advice is right now. Should you go and buy every master skin you can to decrease your chances of getting those in a box because you don't want them anyway? Because if you had them unlocked anyway and you haven't bought them, you're probably wearing a real money skin that you preferred in the first place. Or should you hold out for 2.0, amass that gold, and use it for lots and lots of rerolls to dig for what you want?
My answer that I would put out to the world, which is my personal answer for me, is if there is a master, if there's someone close to 10 that isn't there yet, and you like multiple shades of their master skin, the answer is yes. Grind it out, buy that sucker, because you're going to get all 3 tints, and what we haven't actually discussed yet, which I feel is important for this conversation, is what's happening with skins as it pertains to loot chests. So let's get into that if that's cool. So the way loot chest works is that they'll be very much like a loot chest in Overwatch, like a pack of cards in Hearthstone. They come with 4 items in them, and just like everything else in Blizzard, there's different rarity. The thing that's interesting and unique about heroes is that the chests themselves have their own rarity, and so do the items within said loot chest. So there are rare, epic, and hero-specific loot chests that can be awarded for specific milestones. As we mentioned earlier, you can re-roll the contents of a loot chest. If you aren't happy with what you got, you can re-roll all of the entire content, all 4 items, using gold. There will be loot chest exclusives. And if you've been paying attention, you may have noticed that in 2.0, in the beta right now over on the PTR, or in many of the videos talking about this, the Primeval Diablo skin. This is the Diablo from Diablo 3. It's also the Diablo from the freaking Heroes of the Storm cinematic that's been around for a while now and for some reason hasn't made it into the game yet. That's going to actually be exclusive to loot boxes, but you can still craft it with shards. So that's kind of...
And if it ever became featured, that's when you could spend it with gems, just like we have our featured sales weekly.
Yes, exactly. So if something's featured, you can buy it with more money. If it's not, it's essentially loot box specific, but you could still craft it with shards. It's kind of how that all works. And then the only asterisk to all of that are holiday items. They're going to work exactly like they work in Overwatch. You can find them or craft them only during the time where the holidays are going on, which was something I believe we had cleared up when we were talking to the devs at the event. So anyway, the big thing, pulling it back into skins before I get too far down this rabbit hole of loot chests, is that gone will be the days of getting a skin and getting 3 color tints with the skin. You're going to get one, like if you find a skin, unless you're really lucky to get multiple skins within a loot chest, when you find a skin, it's going to be one of the specific tints, and you're just going to get that version of it. So that's I think, important to the skin discussion we've been having, right? That's why we're saying if you're close to a master skin and you actually like multiple tints of it, probably finish that grind out to 10, buy it with your gold because you'll get all 3 tints.
When each tint is being treated as a unique item, and it has a unique name, and so they're decoupling the tints from sort of being a subset of the skin. They're all their own unique version of the skin.
Exactly. And what's kind of cool about this is this means that they don't necessarily have to have 3 tints for every skin they create, and they don't necessarily need to stop at 3 tints for every single skin that they create. You may have noticed. I've been calling it like Mount Color Creep because we had the Judgment Steed, right, for Judgment Uther, and it had 3 tints, and then we had the Warcraft, the World of Warcraft promotion recently to get the Mount in World of Warcraft and the Mountain Heroes of the Storm. The Mountain Heroes of the Storm is just a 4th color tint of the Judgment Mount.
It started getting odd. The other thing we haven't really discussed, of course, is that as loot boxes become part of your progression rewards along with gold, master skins are no longer masterful. They are now normal skins, not put behind any sort of progression wall. And
chump
as
skins.
you mentioned,
I'm sorry, I was just saying chump skins for chumps.
Oh, chump skins. Gotcha.
For me, Diablo 3 Diablo looks incredible, crawls around like a xenomorph. I got to crush pros with it at the summit, and that was awesome. So I'm totally down to throw away the one master skin I'm holding on to right now. For you guys, is this an emotional exchange? Are you concerned about losing that prestige?
I think there needs to be some shorthand way to denote my experience level with a particular hero within the context of the draft. And I think that is very important. It is a very important thing to communicate to my team. It's very important for me to see other players communicate to me that has been an easy visual representation of, okay, you got that master skin. At least I know you've got experience with that hero. I have some confidence there. And even in the opposite team, like, oh my gosh, okay, we're going to face this master skin, whatever, Leoric or whatever. It gives me information. And I think the new progression system is going to give some very interesting information, but I don't know if it's going to be given to me at the same time that I would normally get the master skin information.
And that was actually something they talked to directly at the summit there, was saying they didn't like that players felt forced to equip their master skin for the draft, and then as soon as they were off the screen, now in their little side hexagon, they went, oh, okay, back to the skin I actually like wearing, the one that makes me feel good.
Right, and I've been an advocate for this idea of being able to, at a certain level of your hero, being able to either purchase or select the master nameplate or something, just attach master in front of any skin. If I've gotten to a certain level of a hero, that unlocks, and then I can either, make it a purchasable item or whatever, and just assign it and show, oh, okay, everybody on my team, look, I'm master level with this character.
Now that with the UI improvements that we've gotten, I would put this out in the universe that maybe make the portraits up at the top the master versions of the portraits.
There you go.
Because it doesn't matter what skin you have; those portraits are always the same.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
You guys have brought up numerous times that, with the number of reworks that these characters get, even the master skin doesn't necessarily mean what you hope it means. So even that is a bit problematic, but I still value that information. I still feel like, well, at least at some point, I know this player played a heck of a lot of this character. So even if there's been a rework in the interim, I'm still a little more confident, but I wish there was a better solution there.
Yeah, I agree. And it is a bit of a ball drop on Blizzard's case that they didn't show us what was replacing that. And we've heard the word, and it is Epic Taunt, which I agree with those who say, so wait, you're taking my chance to show my prestige in draft and in game, and you're going to make me BM to show that particular exchange? There's also new hero borders that kind of have almost a Call of Duty repeat level up kind of thing going on. We're just not really sure how that prestige is going to be communicated, but they are aware of it. And certainly for someone like Arthas, I'm more than happy to have that master skin just become, if you like it, you wear it. Otherwise, do what you want.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the master skin, right? Because, I'm not a giant fan of the Arthas one either. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, no one's telling you have to BM to do your taunt. I think when epic taunts are added, I think it's just going to become beginning of the game gate countdown. That's what everyone's going to be doing. You're going to run out. You're going to do your epic taunt, show how badass you are. You're going to mount back up, or you're going to play the game. No one's forcing you to taunt in the middle of the battlefield.
And the tough part for me is, and I'm talking from playing in that Diamond and even the Masters environment. It's you see a pleb horse Vala roll out and you go, well, there's a Smurf, right? Whereas in a lower league, you might think to yourself, oh dear, this is awful. What is about to happen to my eyeballs while I watch this character go? And coming from, again, older MOBAs, when I see Kerrigan do that leap, 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 leap thing, I'm like, damn, girl, you're awesome. And those sort of movements and that body language communicate a greater amount than a Kerrigan Master Skin these days does to me, because of all the changes over time and just the nuances of the character. And there's some heroes, though, where it's like Illidan Master Skin. I'm like, wow, you dropped the mic on the table, and you've got the confidence to even pick that hero in the first place. Let's listen up.
Yeah. Well, is it any closing thoughts on skins? We got so much to get through. I want to get to the other rewards. No? Cool. So the other things that we can get in loot chests, which we've kind of teased at a little bit, one of them are announcers, which is something that, Kyle, you and I are both big fans of. And ever since Dota got a Rick and Morty announcer pack, I've wanted more announcer packs for Heroes of the Storm, and that's what we're getting. So these are going to be other heroes within Heroes of the Storm, calling out your takedowns, your kill streaks, that type of stuff within the game of Heroes of the Storm. It is not replacing objective announcements by the Battleground. So the Gravekeeper is still going to be yelling at you to go get skulls and stuff like that. So it's not going to be too invasive, because one of the big hits and also concerns when we were at the summit playing on their 2.0 build was the Murky announcer, which is hilarious and is nothing but Murgles. Nothing is in an understandable language unless you speak Murloc. Finally,
all those years of Murloc school are going to pay off for me.
Yeah, so you can see where it would become a little concerning if Murky was calling out that a tribute was up, for example. But you don't need to worry about that. He'll just be doing kills and the like. Voice lines are being added. This is very similar to the way they work in Overwatch. You get to, we're getting this new radial dial wheel. I believe it's on X now, if you like by default, and you can bind it to whatever the heck you want. And you've got your taunt, you've got your dance, you have a voice line, and that's what these are. You can find unique voice lines, multiple ones for every hero in the game, and that's what you assign to your voice line slot. I got an Illidan one today that's literally just him sighing, and it made me smile.
Yeah, spam that one to your teammates.
Yeah. Probably the thing that got the biggest reaction from the crowd at the summit were emojis, which was hilarious because there's all this big stuff, and then they show emojis, and everyone just starts clapping. Because, Kyle, how would you quantify the amount of emojis that were shown in the little slide presentation that they had up there?
Is it? Can I take a stab at it?
Sure.
Is it a poop emoji ton?
I would say it's a poop emoji ton. Well done,
Yeah,
sir.
I mean, you're looking at like the packs that are just like random sushis and stuff like that too, but also about like 20 per hero. Each hero is going to release with more of these, and they're such a fantastic way to add personality to the way you talk in this game. And it's something that feels very Twitch chat about it, but someone could call you, as you said, poop whenever or whatever. Yeah, they could insult you, but when Varian's angry face is right next to a tilted Varian talking at you, there's kind of a fun that's been reinserted back in the game.
That's a very good point. Also, I like them a lot. I like them so much that one thing I would like to petition for is I want to be able to disable like allied chat, but I still want emojis enabled. I want like emoji only chat to be a checkbox in the menu system of Heroes of the Storm. So give me it, please.
All we need is emoji only chat.
Yep.
This guy seems to be he's either angry or is Diablo's little face mad or is he happy for me?
That's the thing about it. Like, it just looks like everyone's having a fantastic time.
That is problematic. We're also getting banners, which you'll be able to. So we already kind of alluded to the new collection and the loadout of your character. So like every hero you can click on now, and you have all these little different tabs in your loadout, and you can click what skin you want, what mount you want, but also some of the new things like banners, for example. And there's also tons of these. They all look nice. They look like Diablo 3 banners, but from every Blizzard universe imaginable. And when you do things like take a mercenary camp or destroy a fort or keep, the banner is dropped in place of that. You're kind of marking your territory saying, I did this! I did this!
That is the coolest thing. The fact that it happens automatically, the fact that I don't get to choose where the banner goes, but I have to do something awesome, and then the game goes, banner worthy. That's awesome.
Yeah. And also, you can't just drop them anywhere, so it doesn't add to the visual clutter in important areas of a battleground. It happens on the rubble of a fort, which is already obstructing your path, and it happens on mercenaries that have already been taken, so who cares?
Did they mention how long they stay up? Like, am I going to be able to return to a lane and, see like all these little murky banners, all the things that he destroyed while I was away?
In the build we played, they stayed on forts and keeps until the game was over.
That's rad.
Obviously,
dude.
mercenary
That's rad.
camps, they go away once the merc camp respawns. But, yeah, so all game long, you're just reminded of that damn murky that took that fort down.
And of course, one of the things we were really excited about is this is a visual left on the map the entire time. What sort of opportunities does Blizzard have to sell these things? And they were very excited, the devs, about doing things with Make-A-Wish, or maybe helping sponsor a team through these and letting you root for somebody.
It's cool. Love it.
Yeah. Sprays. We are also getting, this is the fourth option on the new radial dial wheel that you can bring up with your X button or whatever you happen to bind it to. Some of these are just rehashes of the emojis, but they're animated, which are super hilarious. Some are not animated. Some are just, they are what they are. But there's some, again, this is another thing where there was shown to us just a ton of art made for this. Some of it's hilarious. Some of it's just on the nose cool stuff. Like you've got your Horde symbol, your Terran symbol. But you also have Li Ming wearing a badass pair of sunglasses.
As she does.
This is the one that I think people are the most scared of, and it is understandable. It is clutter on the fields. These disappear quick. When we're talking these animated emojis or these sprays, you put like Pepe on the ground, and he peeps 3 times before he disappears. And it's in a very sort of pixel art style for those animated ones. These aren't going to linger, and one horrifying thought would be you laid a spray forever ago, or maybe 2 minutes ago, and now people know you're taking a camp in the top because it's still sitting there. No, that's not going to happen. But also, unlike Overwatch and shooters, these don't sort of meld into the scenery. They're very apparent, and they are a way to avoid B-stepping, something that the devs don't really think is bad, but they just want to give you more options to show your personality, even if that might, tilt people in a way.
Well, I think for me it comes down to the emojis, right? Like it's just kind of more fun. I mean, yes, there are people who are gonna use this as a way to BM, but even if they do, like you said, Kyle, like if someone's mad at you, but they're mad at you in emojis, it's easier to swallow.
I think I'm more worried about my own teammates turning on the team and then just running around and having more crap to do that isn't contributing to the team, that they can just, F off and do whatever they want to do while the rest of the team is failing,
So you're concerned
that's my only worry.
You're concerned that the APM wasted to drop your spray is going to cost you the game?
Maybe, but not really. I'm more worried about some guy on my team gets ticked off at some other guy on my team, and then instead of him just, running around and not doing anything, he actually has something to do to annoy people. You know what I mean? Like he actually has a thing to prevent his own boredom while also subverting the team. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And particularly when you're dealing with those, lower leagues where you take a fort and then you keep pushing that darn lane, and then they lay down a spray and then they're emoting in the chat and they're kind of wasting their own time. Honestly, in the games I've played, as well as the ones that we had among pros at the summit, nobody had time. You get yourself a fort, you get yourself a kill. That is the immediate strategy moment to go do an interaction with the map, take a mercenary camp, take a keep. There's really no time to hit the X button in most cases.
Yeah, well, but the dude that just looted the sweet spray and just put it on his wheel, I think that dude's gonna find a way to put it in the game.
I have plenty of time to drop a spray while I'm waiting for that merc camp to tick over all the way blue. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it's not going to sit there for long. So definitely one of the odder rewards, but adds more personality.
Here's what I will say. I trust Blizzard to deal with this if it becomes a big problem. I really do. I think that they are not feeling so precious about their new loot system that if any one of these things has a detrimental effect on the competitiveness of the games, that they will not address it.
Right, and I've already kind of searched through, and there's a lot of these things, but not a ridiculous amount. I've already searched through to just make sure there isn't like a puffer fish, because how madness would that be? That'd be like people gluing quarters to the sidewalk as you're trying to fight a Merkian lane.
Oh yeah, that would be. Yeah, that's really mean. That was like the guys back in like the old school Counter-Strike days that their sprays look like a player crouching, and you would put it next to a box in a shadowed hallway, and I'd be like, ah. And then they shoot me in the back of the head from a completely different angle. But
that's funny.
Yeah. We already mentioned portraits, but many more portraits are being added to the game. These can also be found in loot boxes. Typically, I am the hater of all haters when it comes to portraits, but to just load into the beta and go look, there are some really awesome portraits being added. I'm actually excited about portraits for the first time ever. So there is that. Already mentioned loadouts a little bit, but let's talk about the last kind of big thing in 2.0, which is collection and the loadouts within. So the shop is just being renamed and replaced entirely by the collection, and this is just everything. This is everything you could possibly acquire in the game will be found under the collection. If you don't have it, you can buy it or craft it here. So there are many tabs for all of the things we just talked about: emojis, banners, sprays, portraits, skins, obviously heroes, so on and so forth, all within the collection. It's very well organized. Normally, I'm like, oh no, too many things. I like this. It's easy to navigate. It's easy for me to see what I have, what I do not have, pinpoint what I would like to have. It's fine. And of course, was the very first thing I did sitting down at that game station was, oh, what's in here? What don't they want me to see? And that's how I found out that Uther's rework was live at the event, guys.
It was amazing. And to give you guys even a slight preview of it, as it's not in the build at the moment, Uther's going to be sharing armor like crazy. And
yeah.
Every heal he does is just passing out armor, and it's fantastic. And he feels like an off-tank bruiser healer, and all the pros screamed MVP Uther while I was sitting there playing him, and it was a shining moment of my gaming career.
Yeah, it was beautiful. The other thing that was beautiful for me, Kyle, was you had to go play Diablo with the new Diablo 3 skin, and I had been hearing all day how awesome Uther was, how Uther was like borderline off tank. You could pull it off, and his healings were actually worth it now, and all that kind of stuff. And I had sat down to play multiple times, and every single time Uther was auto-locked. We had a new hero to play there, guys, and Uther was getting auto-locked in. So I finally got into the game, got to play Uther, and I got to off tank for your Diablo as Uther, and it worked, and we crushed.
It's cool.
Yep.
I remember when Uther was first pick, first ban, except there were no bans back then.
Right.
So just
we were all just kind of diving for the one hero that could make someone slightly invincible for just half a second in our weird auto attack meta following Butcher's release.
Right.
Also, listener, I can hear you penning that email that says one game does not a sample size make. I don't care. I off tanked as Uther, and it was awesome. But yeah, so that's everything going on in the collection. The only other thing we didn't really talk about was how progression overall is getting overhauled. And without getting into nitty-gritty number game, because we don't actually have a nitty-gritty number game to go off of, it's getting leveled out severely. There is if you go and watch the developer video, the announcement for 2.0 that was shown, you'll see the exact same bar graph. It's actually a very fancy animation for a bar graph that they showed us during the reveal. And you can see the plateau that is everything after level 9 in the current progression system, and how it's getting drastically reduced and smoothed out from level 1 and up, which I'm personally very excited about.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what level I am with half of my characters. I think it's going to be a huge boost. It's going to be rad. And this is something they talked about at BlizzCon this last year, and he mentioned that it was in the works. And I honestly was so excited about it at that time that I kept hoping that every new patch that came out, that they were finally going to do this. I had no idea that this was going to be part of such a big, 2.0 thing. But I've been looking forward to this. I think this is even over and above the loot boxes and all that cool collection stuff that I'm jazzed about. Just the idea of infinite leveling and a number that really represents how much time you put into the game that's visible to all. I do think that's going to have a real positive effect for me personally, just how I feel, like feeling good, and also being able to read other people's experience level and feeling like my time invested actually has some kind of metric attached to it. All of that I think is a positive thing.
Definitely. And the best thing about these heroes, after level 10, I think it is, the hero level kind of evens out, and you have these repeat levels after that of the same XP. We're all going to be a lot higher levels than even if you have a 20 right now. That's max. The max goes on. And they said it would take you about like 36 years of play to maximize everything in this game. It would be insane.
It sounds like a challenge, Kyle.
Yeah, but challenge for someone else. Oh my goodness. Or maybe a bot or something crazy like that. That's about the only way you could really unlock that. But now when someone looks at your profile, they'll see your greater experience in the game rather than, let's say you really love two heroes and you've got them both at 19. When someone looks at your account, they might go, oof, this guy, he doesn't play a lot. When actually the new system will really reward you for focusing on those heroes. But at the same time, the new progression tab, as well as the quest system built in, has this sort of to-do list for you, if you will. And it's constantly reminding you, honestly, to kind of take a break maybe. Like you're playing a lot of Hero League, you look at your quests. Since Hero League knocks out all your quests, you knock out all your quests for the day, you want to have a little bit of fun, you check that progression tab, and it says, oh, by the way, you've got 3 heroes at level 4, where 2 games will take you and get you 500 gold. Why don't you bust that out? And that gives you the next idea of what you might want to invest in.
Super cool.
I like all of this. Like, so like the more I think about it, it's gems. Gems are like my hang up, and a little bit on the master skins, just because of personal hang-ups and emotional reactions. And when I really think about it, honestly, there's only a couple master skins where I'm like, yeah, they're special to me for my own personal story. I have Thrall's master skin. I don't even really like playing Thrall that much. You shouldn't be excited when I get into your game on Thrall. So maybe well, I can calm down on master skins a little bit.
Yeah, when Kyle earlier was talking about being impressed with an Illidan master skin, I was like, oh, I have an Illidan master skin, but I think it's been a year since I've played Illidan. So it means 0. It means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so
they have depreciated, and it, for those people who really want to show, particularly in the lower leagues, I really feel that when you pick Brightwing and you're trying to get some other guy off of Brightwing and you're showing your master skin, we need that sort of communication to be available in the draft.
Definitely.
And as long as they announce and let us know what that is outside of maybe this heroic taunt, which is in game and could be considered BM, I think all problems with 2.0 disappear.
The other question I have is, right now, if you go into like quick match and stuff, you'll see the portrait, and then you'll see the little 40 level or whatever level they are, if they're not quite 40 yet. Are we going to be able to see 117 or whatever it is if your cumulative player progression level will be?
That'll be part of the new border system, which is a little mysterious at the moment, but that was what I was talking about, where you're going to have these borders that you can repeat level into every time you kind of maximize the next one. You're going to unlock that next version, just like your prestige in Diablo 3.
Yeah, we have it in Diablo and we have it in Overwatch. We have it in Overwatch as well. But yeah, you're right, Kyle. That was kind of a mysterious thing, right? We didn't see any proof of concept of that shown to us. So that, along with the legendary taunts, are mysterious items at this moment.
I would love to see that. I would love that to be front and center on my nameplate, on my portrait, whatever it is. I would love to have that cumulative level displayed, and because I think that's useful information for my teammates and for my opponents.
I mean, there is an argument against that, right? Like, imagine we showed games played. Like, there's backwards ways to go and find that, but there's an argument against that, right? That it's an inflated. It might not be as helpful as you think it is.
And while you're talking about ways to find that out, I am so excited to share with you all. If you care about this sort of thing, we certainly do here because we reference HotSlog so much. But the API is almost done.
Oh, right.
And that means we're going to get just all the information we want without uploads and fabulous things like that. So really excited. But they already have the flame system. Let's let a hero, when you select them, catch on fire on the screen if you're level whatever.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Give us different colors of fire, because we already have blue for rare, purple for epic, and yellow for legendary. Have that be it for whatever levels you want to make it. Maybe level 5, level 10, level 15. Who knows?
Right. And remember, they're calling it a beta on purpose. It's going to sit there for a month. It is our job as a community to let them know what needs to be changed. And certainly, I would love if the voice line you select is the one that plays when people vote for you 4 times. Like, all these sort of ideas, they're just scratching the surface, and they know it. Because they're willing to make these changes during this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why can't I, on that dais, why can't I have my character dance or emote in some way? Why can't there be a little animation bit that I can find in a loot chest, like there is in Overwatch, that lets me, emote during the cool victory screen?
Exactly.
I believe that came up in our interview, didn't it, Kyle? Like victory poses akin to Overwatch.
Could be a thing that could be there's lots of these, of course. And in fact, one of the things that they did say to us was, if you want something that is actually inside the video game when you're playing it on the map, those are the sort of requests that are going to be easy to fill. When you get into the background work, the draft screen even, those things take a very long time to program correctly.
So it's easier to put things into an actual live fight on a battleground than it is to any of the extraneous menus.
Exactly, because you're kind of dealing with that StarCraft map editor that's been moved on, and that tool is extremely powerful. The menu system to get there is what gets convoluted.
That makes sense.
I've always thought, though, that the character models look so good up close that it's a shame there isn't some way they can leverage that more often, because those big, giant character models that you see on the victory screen or you see on the selection screen, they look great. Or even when you're browsing through the shop and you're deciding whether you want to buy that skin or not, up close, there's so much detail there. They look great. They feel really solid, and it doesn't feel like a video game. It's like they're round. They feel like action figures. I would love them to figure out ways to leverage that more and make that more of a thing that I see more often.
I'll give you that. I will add the asterisk of most heroes look really good up close and larger. Some still.
Who you do not like?
Arthas is due for a facelift. I think Brightwing is probably due for a facelift. Most of the original launch heroes, I think, kind of fall into this.
But we can say that as well. They told us about Brightwing 2.0.
Oh, right. God, man, you keep reminding me of things I forgot. You take it away, man. I'm talking too much and my throat hurts.
The new skin system allows everything to exist alongside itself. So that Brightwing 2.0 that people were excited to see, that can be done. And the old version of Brightwing can live alongside it. Now, if they did Brightwing 2.0, they said that future skins, as they develop them, would go to Brightwing 2.0. But now there's no cause to redo old things or to ruin what you may have already purchased. Look at the new Star Child Li Ming. Like the old one, it's a little tame, but they have a brand new, just flashy one that can coexist and doesn't delete the older version.
Also, did they mention now, every time a new hero is released, we get a master skin and we get their release skin. Is it going to be the case that a new hero is introduced and we still get we'll get 3 master skins and 3 release skins in the same, because we had those 3 tints. Is that going to be the same content model going forward?
That was not
Right,
clarified to my knowledge.
And for now, that with Cassia's release, that is what happened, and that is what is sitting there. But that could also mean they come out with 4, 5, with 2. Who knows? The system allows for that freedom of the number of tints.
It sounded to me from their talks about the way that skins are now being broken up for loot boxes that nothing is set in stone anymore. So don't necessarily expect that. I'm sure a new hero will release with a couple of skins, whether it's I guess 9 in total. If you have 3 standard skins, 3 master skins, and 3 whatever the launch skin is, that remains to be seen.
And we'll find out in 6 months as this development cycle goes, when they figured out that they were stopping making master skins.
Right. That's the other thing, right? Sorry. Yeah, it's the pipeline, right? I'm sure multiple heroes are kind of in the chamber now and probably already have master skins and launch skins figured out. It probably won't shake out for a few months.
One of the coolest things I think about this announcement when it was made publicly is there's a whole roadmap on the website of when the next series of announcements are going to be hitting. There's going to be evidently something along the lines of a roadmap that they're going to be giving us. I'm very curious what that's going to be like. That's going to unlock, I guess, in April at some point. We're getting a new cinematic at a certain point. And we know when heroes are going to launch. I love what seems to indicate a new level of transparency as far as when content is coming.
Yeah, let's just jump ahead real quick. We had
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you.
No, that's all right. Let's just talk about it. So it's over on the official hero site right now, and the dates are April 12th for the heroes timeline, whatever that is. I'm not lying to you. I don't actually know. They didn't mention this to us. April 17th, new hero and battleground. April 18th, launch event. On the 19th, a Reddit Q&A. On the 20th, new bundles and a new program. On the 25th, a new cinematic. Also on the 25th, the Nexus Challenge 2.0. And rounding it out on May 4th, a new hero. So, Kyle, you've been referring...
hero's timeline is the most exciting thing to me. It's like, what is that? What are they going to tell us? 6, 8, 12 months out? What's coming? Is that? I think that would be rad.
I think it would be too, and I honestly, frankly, don't know. But it's the first thing we're getting, so bring it. Looked like Kyle had a thought, but moving on. We have a new hero to talk about that we've only really teased. Let's talk about Cassia. The Diablo 2 Amazon is coming to Heroes of the Storm. You can go and play her right now on the 2.0 beta, which if you have updated your PTR, it just kind of became that. TLDR, I love this hero a lot.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, she feels... And I was saying this to you, Kyle, multiple times over the weekend, or actually over the Monday. It felt like a weekend. That she feels kind of old school in a good way.
Yeah, she's very Vala Raynor. Her trait, avoidance, when you get 65 physical armor while in motion, not on mounts, just physically moving, you basically invented the poster child of stutter stepping. But if you're already good at that sort of skill set, it's not like a tracer. You're not, or even a Zeratul. You don't have to put in that level of work to maintain your skills with Cassia. Cassia could just be part of your roster in a very organic way. Oh, I lost Vala. Oh, there goes Raynor. I'll just grab Cassia.
She seems like a tankier Lunara to me a little bit.
That's a good connect. It may be the spears, right? She's got this kind of, well, she's a spear build Amazon, and I'm not very familiar with the character. I got to the Herodric area and just started getting smashed in Diablo 2. Ended up giving up the character, played a druid to the end. But from those I've heard, this was the build. And there are so many treats hidden throughout the talent tree for those who are dedicated old school Amazon fans.
Yeah. So her trait's probably the most new school thing because she's got 65 physical armor against hero basic attacks, But everything else, I mean, her Q is just a skill shot, throwing a javelin. If it hits an enemy, it splits into 2 lightning bolts at like a right angle. So if you can think of it traveling forward, and then at the point of impact, 2 splitting off to form like a T or a plus. That's how that kind of works. So if there's any enemies standing shoulder to shoulder with your target, that are going to get nailed as well. Her W is blinding light. There's a half-second delay, and then it just comes down out of the sky and blinds enemies in a generous circle, but not a giant circle. For
about the size of a blizzard.
Actually, yeah, that's a great way to put it. An unmodified blizzard. Blinds it for 2 seconds. Also has a passive on there that Cassia deals 15% increased damage to blinded targets. This is on all of her abilities. And that's what feels kind of old school to me. Like, her combo nature is very surface level. You want to be getting that blind out and then unload on your target. And
Fend, her E, really works into this philosophy because it is very dangerous for her to stand still, as you can assume. This is only physical armor, so abilities will still hit like trucks, but while you're in motion, and if you can get your stutter step on the right rhythm, particularly based on your enemy, think of Raynor, who has a very rhythmic machine gun to him, you can match that rhythm and avoid so much damage. But when it comes to Fend, you're going to do a Varian-style charge at a target. And when you hit them, you will stand there and spear stab for 1.5 seconds, standing still, but doing a large amount of ability damage. And this can be talented to ramp up, exponentially as you do more stabs. There's ways to increase the duration of this thing. But you're basically going to be hunting, stutter stepping for a good moment to finally lock on while they're blinded out and get this heavy damage through.
Yeah, the angle of this ability, the angle of your engage with this ability, because this ability actually makes you kind of dart forward to hit your target. The angle is important because if you're trying to hit multiple targets with this thing, it's like almost a frontal cone, and the direction that the cone is facing is based off of the direction you were facing when you engaged on your target.
And it does have the silliness of Varian's charge, as I'm sure many of you have experienced. If you target someone beyond a wall, you were around the map. Or if someone's stuck in a zombie wall of sorts, you may spin around it a few times. It can get a little nutty. But understanding where you're going to connect with the hero means where you're going to do your cone attack for an extended amount of time. So that will definitely take some elegance and some practice on the part of players.
Yeah, the more you can put this in front of your enemies, not just the one you're trying to hit, but even more of them, the more you're inviting mistakes to be made. And I always love that on here, is if you can invite your enemies to make a mistake, because like you said, Kyle, you're weak when you're standing still as Cassia, and you're standing still when you're using Fend, and Fend is going to do a lot of damage. But if you position correctly and you force your opponent to engage into your cone of Fend, especially if you've talented into it, they might not survive that encounter while they try to go for the kill.
And don't forget, on her passive there, it's on her W, just because her trait is such a busy bit of text, but 15% increased damage to all blinded enemies, and that includes abilities, auto attacks, heroics, whatever have you. And you could make a blind team. You could go Johanna, Lili, get yourself like a late-game Lucio or Valera in there if you really wanted to. But just like those heroes as they exist in-game, the blind is a bonus. You want Johanna for more reasons than a blind. A blind is a great way to interact. You notice a way to shut down maybe that Butcher, shut down maybe that Zul'jin, but ultimately you're going to get her for the rest of her kit. Investing further into that can kind of be dangerous.
Yeah. Now we haven't talked about her heroics. The first option is Ball Lightning. You will throw a literal ball of lightning at an enemy hero. It will bounce up to 6 times between nearby enemy heroes, but also you yourself as Cassia. You can use your own body as a way to bounce this ball and keep it going, and it will damage just the enemy's hit. It's not going to self-damage Cassia, so keep that in mind. There's also a level 20 talent to make the bounces infinite. As long as there is another eligible target for this ball to hit within range, it will keep bouncing until one of the targets is dead.
It does have some odd interactions there. If you have, let's say, in the very first bounce, you throw it out and it gets a kill, it stops there. So kind of odd. Same with the infinite, but on the infinite one, every time it bounces, you get a 4-second cooldown reduction. So if you're 1v1ing someone, you're going to get 3 bounces. 1, and then back to yourself, and then 3 sets of damage. 2 targets, it'll favor bouncing between those 2, never returning to you. If they move out of range of the ability, the spell will be canceled.
And throw that into a mosh pit, and it's now you got electro light orchestra. It's going to be a blast, man.
I didn't think about that. That's just mean. Why would you do that? That's right to win. But that's not her only heroic. She also has Valkyrie. She summons a Valkyrie that rushes to Cassia. So if you can imagine a straight line between you and maybe 2-3 yards out, a Valkyrie comes down and comes towards you, Cassia, after a three-quarters of a second delay. And it pulls...
It's like Zul's scythe, right?
Yes. That's a great way to put it. And it pulls and damages the first enemy hero hit and stuns them for half a second at the end of the rush. Also, the Valkyrie knocks back all other enemy heroes in the way. And this is the first hero, I feel like, in a while, guys, where I like both heroics. And I can see scenarios where I would pick one over the other.
This is really powerful. We talked lightly about the knockback here. It's something to know. When you shoot this, just like that Zul's scythe you mentioned, on the far end, and you grab that Chromie, you'll pull her to her while pushing out of the way the tank, the off tank, and anyone else there as this is delivered to you. Push to the side, no less, so you have a clear shot. Not only that, and it says it stuns for half a second when it's over. What happens when you're being pushed by Raynor, by a Chen barrel? You're disabled. You're basically silenced. So for that whole drag, you're silenced as well. Li Ming is dead.
Yeah, it's awesome. Gross. Yeah, this is a fantastic tool for snagging backliners, and it works very. It's one of the few times I feel like they've shown us how something should work, like in the hype video, and it just works exactly as advertised.
It's easy to use. It's very quick. It does have a bit of a tell, so you may be able to dodge if you're quick on Vala with a Volt or something like that, but it'll be extremely destructive.
Yeah. So
she's also got some rad talents.
Yes, no, she absolutely does. So we talked about how she, for the most part, feels positively old school in the way that her kit is designed, with the exception being her trait, because it's based completely around armor, which has been the new hotness for a while. But that's not it, Kyle. There's something at level 20 that also feels new and very much a product of current heroes.
Yes, Titan's Revenge. Basic attacks now ignore all armor. And it gives you 2 range, because why not? I am so excited for this to be transformed into chaos damage and put on Illidan. You have no idea. I want this to be Magic the Gathering Hearthstone Rise into the word chaos damage. But for now, really cool way to augment her with that bonus damage you're doing against blinded targets, against something like a Hardened Shield Muradin who thinks he's invincible, but you're piercing through.
Yeah, one of the things they mentioned too is that her range isn't as long as most ranged assassins. So getting this +2 range at level 20 might be a real boon as well. There's a nice bonus to this talent.
It does get you in a lot of trouble, yes. I believe off the top of my head it's 4 range, which puts you 1.5 below most ranged attackers. You will have a very tough time closing on a Lunara, but once you actually get a hold of her, particularly with something like Valkyrie, she's very dead and very blind.
Stab, 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 stab.
This is the ultimate hero for kicking sand in the eyes of your enemies before you murder them. So, well, we're gonna save a little, just a little thing here at the end of our Cassia and 2.0 discussion, talk about our favorite stories from the summit. But that would we need to do something for Jeff, because that'd just be unfair. So, Jeff, of everything announced in 2.0, what are you most excited about?
Oh my goodness. I think the thing that I will end up being most excited about is being able to craft fun cosmetics. You know, I think having my time rewarded in that way of, you know, for so long, and almost every time I play, you know, I get into that solo queue and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well maybe I'll just tab over to shop. And I'm like, oh man, I want that iPad mount. I want it real bad. $10. Like, no, I shouldn't do that. Now I'll be able to like feel like, okay, well, I can just keep playing, and now I have my eye on. I mean, no pun intended. My eye on that mount, and I can actually just sort of grind to it, and it doesn't feel like a grind, right? Because I'm already playing. I'm already doing some things. It just feels like a bonus reward now, especially because I didn't come to the game for that. I came to the game for the game, but this is just a fun bonus for putting in the time.
Right. I'm very much reminded of my paper on the wall that I had as I checked off things, primal resources in BC to make my alchemist stone. It gives me that feeling and that excitement that I'm going to sit down with all my shards and start mapping out what I'm aiming for. And that's a very true part of it, too. I mean, I see, these reviews on Steam. They're like, the game is grindy. One of my favorite games of the entire last year, Darkest Dungeon. The game's too grindy. It's not a grind if you love the core gameplay, though.
Right.
Yeah, it's all good points. Yeah, I'm excited about that, too. I mean, it just gives you another... I mean, there'll be times where I'm out of shards, right? And I'm just like, well, crap, I guess I'm spending money. But at least I have the option of shards. That's not an option I had before. So, Kyle, what's your favorite? What was your favorite thing just from attending the summit?
It's tough to pinpoint one because it really was a magical experience. I mean, you can imagine they got all the podcasters, YouTubers, streamers, and pro players all together in one big room. I mean, when I had a question about anything that changed, I could pick the exact person that I knew would have the best answer for me and go to them for that, whether it be a dev or another pro player. Like I said, I was so excited to play that new Diablo skin, but getting to destroy names I knew was a real special treat as well. But also getting to talk to like Blizzard sound designers, Sean being one of them. Then I actually talked to both designers, both the actual character designer and the sound designer for Zul Jin, and having this wild conversation. And he's like, "Did you know that was a didgeridoo in the background when you're doing the and you cancel your heal early?" And so him and I are sitting there talking through what the individual sounds of the game were by voicing them aloud. You mean like when the Ultralisk goes like, and he's like, yeah, that's a pig I flipped upside down. It was such a fantastic. It was a fantastic and passionate exchange. And in fact, to give a blanket statement over every dev I talked to, they almost felt like afraid they were going to be found out one day. Like it was such a dream job for them to even be in this position that they were going to wake up one day and people were going to be like, you're not qualified. Get out of here. You're just a passionate man. You ain't got any skills. No, they just all were just so fantastic. And I'm so excited for you guys to get a hold of this new Uther. The only support that I willingly play. He is incredible.
Yeah, Uther in general was like my highlight from the summit. It wasn't even a bullet point. It wasn't even like a tiny little aside on any of the slides. It had nothing to do with the hype of the event itself, but it was in there. He was I think he was picked in every damn game played that day, and he's feeling really good. But if I had to go with a highlight, it's Uther related. I got yelled at by not healing Dunk Train in time. Dunk Train died because I was support and didn't heal him fast enough. I could have too, by the way. There was no cooldown here. This was just bourbon cooldown. So that was. Did
he say burden of execution? Burden of execution.
I believe he said, "Where the hell is my heal?" And then he died, and I'm sitting right next to him, as I believe Jay Howe was casting our game. Like it was such a weird place for me to be in. Not my. I'm used to here, sitting in front of a camera on Skype, talking sometimes calmly about things. So that was fun.
I'd like to underscore what Kyle said a little bit. I mean, I wasn't at this summit, but I was at last year's, and I've talked to these developers a lot, and every time I've been at any of the events, there is such a feeling of genuinely wanting to listen to the community, genuinely wanting to create a great game and fill the needs of the player base, and people really loving the game they make, and they all stay around after hours and play it. And it does not feel, when people are like, oh, is Heroes, it's the third, MOBA out there or whatever. I don't think people realize that this team, I think they are in it, and they are loving what they're doing. They are throwing a lot of creativity at it. They're given a long leash as far as being able to come up with really cool outside the box ideas, and it shows. Their attitudes are awesome, and they're welcoming to the players and to questions from the players, and I think that makes me want to play the game more too, just feeling that.
And it's 100% true. I mean, we were talking to them, and they're telling us stories of their lunch breaks. They work on this game all day, and then they play at lunch break, and then when they're done, when they get home for the day, they're so excited about this game. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, no, everything you just said. It's something like, it's weird, right? Because I wanna like jump on this as well and hammer it home that like the devs, everyone that works on this game, they're players just like we are. Like when you talk to them in a casual setting, when you get to actually just shoot the shit with them, and you don't have a microphone, and you're not sitting under studio lights, and they're not giving a talk at BlizzCon, they still want to talk about the game. They want to talk about the game they had last night. And they want to talk about the bad beat they got from the darn Illidan that had shields for days. And they're just as passionate about the game as us, the fans and the players.
And to piggyback on that right now, they're just as human as all of us. They don't have special channels that they read this stuff through. They're on Reddit. They're on the forums. And if you say something, you can watch their face fall a little bit. But they're there to make it better. And they absorb all of that. And it's got to be tough sometimes with how passionate this community can be about certain aspects.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, in your gilded clouds of diamond area and whatever, but I anecdotally have been noting a whole lot of people with very few games played. So it feels like there's an influx of players, and that's just anecdotal, but it certainly feels like there's the player base is expanding for this game, and a whole lot of people are experiencing it. And to get even more myopic and anecdotal, I went up to the Bay Area to my hometown for my mom's retirement party, and my little nephews were there. I have a 12-year-old nephew and a 7-year-old nephew. The 12-year-old, like, addicted to Overwatch. Like, all he wanted to talk about was Overwatch. And I was like, well, the game I play is Heroes of the Storm. He's like, oh, yeah. And I was like, there's Overwatch characters in Heroes of the Storm. He's like, oh, yeah. And by the time we left that weekend, he had downloaded and installed Heroes of the Storm. So I feel like I'm doing my part, and I feel like the community is growing.
No, there's definitely, like, it's weird because on one hand, I think you could be cynical about 2.0 if you wanted to, because the core gameplay isn't changing, which I'm happy about and I'm relieved about, because it shouldn't.
Right.
It's good. But it's working. In my opinion, it's working. I am hearing from so many friends that I don't usually hear from when it comes to Heroes of the Storm, my Hearthstone buddies, my Overwatch buddies, my World of Warcraft buddies, all of them. We've all been talking this week about this game. It's been a day and a half since the public knew about this. It's only been 2.5 days. Kyle and I found out about it. This is working. Like, there's definitely excitement. The Heroes of the Storm water has been chummed, and all the sharks are coming home.
And they're prepared for that. They're chumming as hard as they can. This is the relaunch that everybody wanted. I mean, just look at something like new cinematic. That's expensive. Like, these sort of things are happening. This is going to be put on every outlet that this is the real launch of Heroes, and it's time to maybe revisit some of those reviews you wrote a while ago and give the game another shot.
Yep.
And hopefully, combine that with Heroes of the Dorm spinning up and all that. Which, by the way, I'm going to Heroes of the Dorm finals. I'm very excited.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Thanks. So I think that sort of 1-2 punch, I really think that this is going to be a cool time to expose a whole new group of players to the game.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think it's working. I think it's absolutely working. I'm excited for it, and people who are not currently playing are asking me all kinds of questions about what it means and when it's going to be live. So,
well, and just to put our own cap on this, at least for ITN, I did get a chance to ask the devs, with this influx of new players, what can you guys do, or what's going to be done to help these new players learn the game? I mean, right now we're talking about a very serious, rather rigid way to play at times of this main tank bruiser off tank kind of style. And that is definitely one of the most victorious ways, varying your damage types, making sure you counter things with blinds if they went too many auto attackers, making sure you have a blind so there's not a hole for something like a butcher to come in and destroy everybody. And they simply said that the game moves too fast, and they're going to rely on shows like this one to make sure that we connect you guys with the best information, the best strategies. And as always, I'll be working to digest the greater meta that is above us, that the pros put out, into something we can use at home. So, to that note, stay tuned.
Awesome.
Well put. So there is one last thing to talk about, and it's not about the future, if Heroes of the Storm. It's about the current, which is we got a balance update 2 days ago. Matter of fact, we were like boarding planes when this balance update was pushed, and I was watching Jaws, which is why I may have made a chum analogy. So.
Again, one of the really cool things about this, to lead in, Cho'Gall got changed. And I'm sitting in the airport reading this, and Heroes of Fitness walk by. And I get to just go, hey, hey, you guys are the experts here. What do you think of this?
I was right. Yeah, that's cool, man. I didn't know. I happened to just randomly get seated next to Gizmozord on my entire flight home, so that was fun. Airports, man. How do they work? But we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of the balance update because we're almost at an hour and a half, which is what we aim for. But, yeah, Cho got buffed. Gall got buffed. Any specific things you wanted to cover there, Kyle?
The really important thing to note here is that the basic attack damage of Cho went up and Shadow Flame damage went up. And compare this to our conversation we briefly had last week about timings and what sort of comp you're going to build for the map. If it's a 2-lane map, probably don't go Varian. You're not going to reach the late game where you're going to be that powerful. Varian actually got a change in here. This is in the same vein. So with Cho'Gall getting a flat damage buff, this means he's better in the early game, which means he's better on the 2-lane maps that he shines on in the first place, because you're going to be missing that body.
Sorry. Good old being sick. All right. Onwards to Ragnaros, who got a nerf. Basic attack damage decrease. Yeah. And Power Sulfuris's damage is down. The cooldown has been increased on Sulfuris Smash.
I'm not big on the Smash change 20 seconds onto that, mainly because in Hero League we're not going to execute that sort of stacked level. But of course in the pro scene something had to be done, and by lowering Empower Sulfuris's damage, you add benefit to level 1 talent, and also we slowly move out of a land where he's first ban, first pick material, regardless of the map.
I was excited to come home and notice that Tychus had been buffed a bit. Minigun damage was increased, which by a sizable amount considering what it's at. Was at 2%. Now it's at 2.5%. That's a big jump when you're working at that low of a percentage. I've been playing a lot of Tychus recently because I believe, Jeff, you started this train at the very beginning of the show. The question is, do I get characters that are close to 10 to grab that Master Skin? And the answer for me for Tychus is yes. I need those skins because I need something other than a blue Tychus.
Shirtless Tychus or GTFO?
That's not his Master Skin.
Infested Tychus around here.
Oh yeah, Kyle's all about Infested Tychus. I like his Master Skin. It's weird. I don't know what it's supposed to be. He's just kind of like has extra crap added onto his armor, but at least it's not a slightly different shade of blue, which are all 3 of his normal tints. But also, the bigger they are talent, the damage threshold was decreased. So I've been playing a lot of Tychus. That minigun buff is very much being felt by me. I'm happy about that. Sadly, still got to get real close to my enemies. Still got to get real close. Kyle, I'm curious. Have you gone back to Tychus at all since this change?
That's just a passion thing at the moment. I've got Zul'jin. I love him, man. And I've got a lot of heroes that I'm working on. Muradin has continued to be extremely successful for me. So just in terms of, interest in the game, I'm happy to let Tychus take a little break while I experience these new guys and Nazebo.
Gotcha. I've been trying something. The reason I ask,
invigorating.
The reason I ask is I've been trying something weird. I've been going Combat Tactician, and I've been going Master Assassin, just so I'm constantly running and gunning. because
I don't think that's a bad idea, and I think that's perhaps how you should be playing.
it seems to be working out. So
I really like Dash, though, if you can get Orb build, but it's just such a different character for me. And Master Assassin's neat, but again, such a different character from the wailing in the rhythm guy I used to know.
Absolutely. Varian got a buff. Sizable base health increase, base health regen increase. Health bonus on taunt, however, was reduced.
Works to exactly what I was just saying. Varian's better in the early game and doesn't have to wait to 10 to be as tanky.
Right, which is something we've been talking about for a while. We actually just talked about this on the last episode.
It's dangerous to have to wait around that long.
Yeah. Murky got a little bit of a buff. Probius getting overall a buff and just tons of tweaks here and there on across multiple abilities and talents.
Well, and we got the savant, the predictor here, Jeff Kanata on Probius. How'd you feel about the hero, and have you got a chance to try him since he's been buffed up?
I have. I've decided that I'm gonna put some time into Probius. I was in a couple of games just in the last couple of days since the rework or the buffs came out that I saw some people just owning, particularly on Brexis, just being able to completely solo one of those one of those pads and keep people away. Just allow 4 of their players to take one of them, get a kill at the bottom, and just completely take on 2 or even 3 heroes and prevent them. Just keep poking and preventing people from doing anything while the team cleans up in the other area. I just was so impressed with that. I think it's a fun. I love the fiction. I know you guys were a little, particularly you, Garrett, were a little disappointed by how the fiction played out with Probius, but I dig it, man. I think it's a fun hero. I love the ability to control big swaths of territory. I mean, you combine a Probius with a Jaina, and you can get like just huge areas of landmass that people can't walk into. You know, it's crazy.
You play it like a game of Civ.
Yeah.
On that pylon cooldown helped out a lot. The one I was most excited about is the duration increase on photon cannons up to 13 seconds now. Damage increase too. But what this really means is my favorite talent that he's got, Tower Defense, can now put you up to 3 turrets reliably if you're fighting on one of these out-of-lane maps, because you can't target the turrets around. So something like Cursed Hollow, which once you get to 3, if that fight goes on, you'll get up to 4.
That's cool, and you can stagger them around. I mean, good players can find ways to make taking down the pylons a real pain in the neck. So, you really have to figure out how to prioritize. The whole team's working you while you're kind of hunting through bushes to find pylons. It can be really annoying, and he's a great character to annoy people with.
Particularly these building cooldown reductions also and duration increases also mean that Probius can now very reliably take giant camps and can make his way in the late game through a bruiser camp in a decent amount of time. What I'm doing is 1 pylon in the back for the power, cannon, then another pylon to tank. And with these new cooldowns, that's absolutely available to you, and you'll report to that next objective ready to go again.
That excites me. I haven't been paying attention to Probius because I really didn't like him. And also there's, some really exciting stuff happening in Heroes of the Storm. But everything that just left your mouth, Kyle, has me wanting to go play him. Because that's what I wanted, man. I wanted to play a cannon hero. I didn't want to be running around with Vorpal farts.
Up 6%. He's up 6%, man. That puts him above, certainly Muradin, who's been down there for a while. But Li Ming, Alarak, Ariel, Varian, Thrall, Lunara, Falstad. He's climbing.
That's cool, man. That's cool to hear. Tassadar got a nerf. Feel like we should have seen this coming.
I think everyone was just hopeful, and they're happy to see that Tassadar has some windows now where you can dig in without having constant shields.
You gonna miss old Tassadar there, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting change to kind of create, as Kyle was saying, windows where there's no shields and not being able to just sort of have perma shield. But I think, you know, I still see a lot of Tassadar play, and since his last rework.
How does that go in? Have you finished your placement matches, by the way, Jeff?
I just did yesterday, yeah, and I finished last season Silver 1, and I'll give you one guess where I placed this year, guys, this season.
Diamond. Oh,
yeah. So you know, steady as she rolls. But I'm gonna get to gold one of these days, fellas. I'm gonna do it. I tell you what, doing it.
I mean, you're a paid employee now of Into the Nexus. Your role to fill is the lowly silver leaguer. So if you actually start playing better, we're just gonna have to fire you. I'm sorry, Jeff.
You know what? It'll be worth it.
Do you get Tassadar's wanting to solo tank down there?
Yeah.
Are they insistent? What sort
Everybody's insistent in the lower leagues.
I guess so.
I'm gonna play Nova. There's literally no reason for you to be playing Nova. I don't care. I'm doing it. Okay. So you know. I've seen a fair amount of solo Tassadars. I had one on my team yesterday, and we lost. But you know, fair enough.
I really chalk that up to these people watch HGC and they don't try to actually convert what they're seeing into something useful.
Well, this is probably a longer conversation than we have time for. So but I'll just say that I love your strategy discussions on the show. And last week really inspired me because I've been playing a lot of ETC. I was like, he's only one of 2 tanks in the game that's viable. Let's do this. But you know, the skill level with the players I'm playing with most of the time, it just like even the tips that you're giving, it's great if I'm doing them, but everybody has to also be aware. Like, I'll be the guy that face checks the bush. You don't have to do it, Kael'thas. Oh, you know. So, you know, it's kind of hard. You feel like I know what I'm doing. I know I'm taking these lessons, but everybody else is just completely oblivious to how I'm playing, and I'll initiate an engage, and people are just like, you know, oblivious to it. It's very frustrating.
Engages on ETC are really difficult, and in the build that's coming with 2.0, they're getting more difficult in some ways. ETC is losing his attack speed trait and gaining whenever he casts a spell, he gets 20 armor just for himself, which makes him more generic across the board. I really like that because it empowers other tanks to fill an auto attack role and really makes ETC this roaming stun bot of a sense. The change to Echo Pedal is really nice for more lane clear as well, so that encourages that build to continue as the distant ETC stage dives in. But otherwise, we're going to have to learn now that ETC can't pump out any damage. Everything has to be in range of others. I have found in Diamond, while I'm doing this climb with mainly Muradin right now, that people are extremely responsive to the bossy Muradin guy who shows up, first selects Muradin, and just starts saying exactly what he wants. I need that. Okay, Artanis, I like that. Let's do that. And just start working through everything. We need more range. We need more ability damage. And after the pleasantries are exchanged, I've just been very happy with that dynamic. So I wonder if you could do the same thing on ETC in the
general. Be the general.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as a streamer, too, I did realize that I was under communicating because I'm talking to people who are watching, not the people in the game. So I am a typing fiend. My fingers are sore and broken from the amount of typing I'm doing in draft.
I have been trying to do a little more of that. When, you know, especially in light of the, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago strategy discussion, you guys were breaking down per map. Like, you know, the map comes up and the first thing I type, you know, when we see based on the map is like, okay, lane clear heroes, or, you know, wave clear heroes, or, you know, whatever that map needs, you know, 1v1 heroes, you know, it's trying to sort of suggest to people a direction for an overall team strategy. But it's hard, man. It's hurting cats.
The keyword system is extremely powerful, and that's something we talked about now 3 shows ago, because it lets you picture what you need for the map in your own skill range. And, you know, if you're not in those levels where you know you can request an Artanis of your party because simply you might not have players who play it, giving out those keywords to your allies is a great way to start that conversation.
I'm happy to hear you returning to the land of communication, Kyle. Although I thought you were just saying draft, so I'm assuming Allied Chat's still turned off.
No, Allied Chat's back on for me.
Oh, okay, cool.
It comes and goes, of course. When I was in a vulnerable state, missing Tychus, scrambling to find my new roster, it was extremely hurtful, but also I was exposing myself to new heroes. Now that I'm very solidified, and if someone goes, Zul'jin, what are you doing? I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I have walls and barriers prepared for those sort of interactions.
Well, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the last couple of changes in this patch, even though it's complete non sequitur from the knowledge that was just being dropped. But Arthas, he had his physical armor decreased. It was at 15, it is now at 10. Also, the root duration on the Remorseless Winter talent at level 16 has been decreased from 1.75 down to 1.25. I don't care. He's still awesome.
Right, and kind of strange, too, because those are two talents you would only take against certain comps. Well, Remorseless Winter and then Physical Armor, not really being a talent, but a trait of him. So he kind of went more generic. Even though it's a nerf, he's still just as good in those generic moments.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. The only thing I guess this is like bothering me slightly with is when I get a particularly squirrely Lunara. But lately I've been landing my Howling Blast pretty good on this Lunara, so not too bad.
Well, that's a story we haven't told, was Dreadnought preaching the good word of Lunara.
Oh, dear God.
From on high.
We need to get him and Dunk back on the same episode just so we can try and incite this, and then you and I will just walk away and just let them go for probably 3 hours. I don't know. But yeah, that was something that happened towards the end, right? Like it was after dinner, everyone had their drinks. Everyone's moving back down to the PlayStations to play some games. Like the stations for playing, not actually. Heroes of the Storm is not coming to PlayStation. And Kyle and I are like finishing our drinks, just hanging out. Like the only other people up there are Dread and Dunk, and Dread is just pontificating.
Well, not only that, but he's on this elevated platform. He went up there to talk to someone, and suddenly it was like a Renaissance painting. You have Dread just preaching to everyone who can listen about how broken Lunara is about to be, because she's been power creeping by not getting adjusted down. Right, she's horrified.
She's power creeping by not doing anything. Everyone else is moving down slightly around her, and she's just weathering the tidal wave as it comes in. And I don't think he's wrong. And also, really, in closing thoughts about getting to meet so many personalities and devs in person over the course of one day, I am amazed how much who I think these people are, how correct that is. Dread is exactly the kind of person that you think he is. He's this knowledge sponge, and. Yeah, it's not like you get the guy off camera and he just stops talking about heroes. No, he just keeps going. It doesn't end. I love it. And I'm not joking. We need to get them on the show together, and they're gonna start just talking to each other, and you and I, we just get a day off. It's gonna be wonderful.
Oh, yeah, we'll just check out. We'll let them go.
Yep, that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So, oh man, what a trip it was. Also, Kyle, closing thoughts. How about that Leoric buff?
Nice. It's nice. Basic attack damage increased by a decent amount, and skeletal swing damage increased. I still very much await the skeletal swing rework they talked about so many Q&As ago that I'm assuming and hoping that Leoric can become another lane clear character. I'd be happy to sacrifice my Drain Hope talents along the way to just say, we need a bruiser and lane clear. Let's do that with Leoric. But this is still a great touch. And after talking with the sound designer as well, that hammer hits like a truck in the ears. Let's make sure it hits like a truck on the field.
Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Though I think that's more or less it for the show. We do have some thank yous here at the end here. First and foremost being our patrons. We are supported by our patrons over at patreon.com/ITN. There are many of you over there. We're actually approaching 400, which I'm going to be very happy when it ticks over into a nice round number. And we're getting very close, actually, to our next goal. And our next goal is to have Dunk Train on once a month. And we're going to pay him to do so. Our last goal, we're making good on today. It was to have Jeff, you, on once a month.
I always thought of myself as the speed bump to Dunk Train. So I feel very good about that. I love talking about this game. I love talking with you guys. You're so knowledgeable and fun. And I hope people step up and help Dunk get on the show too, because I will like that as a listener and a fan, and I think that he will provide way more value than I do. So that's
listen, and this is not a giant infomercial for Patreon. This is just a compliment to you, sir, and also I think a PSA for the tryhards out there who maybe hear that they've been, maybe this is their first time ever hearing you on the show, Jeff, and then they heard that you're Silver 1, and they're just like, oh my god, what? I've been conned for a whole episode. That was not that was not the intention. There is actually, we believe, a lot of value to be gained for a lot of listeners, because there are a lot of players out there, and many of them are not Diamond, are not Platinum, are not Master, are not Grandmaster. There are plenty of low league players out there who are still just as passionate about the game, and having you on, Jeff, like that's it's a take that we don't have. It is something that is like, I feel like, Kyle, you've just lost it entirely. You're no longer the everyman. You're a good teacher. You're a good teacher, but you're no everyman. So
I exist in the world between.
And we do get a lot of compliments. We get a lot of tweets. We get a lot of emails from folks saying, man, I learn a lot when Jeff's on because he's close to my level. He asks questions that, don't usually get brought up on the show. So it's great that you can come on once a month, man, and bring that with you. So thank you.
Well, it's either that or I'm just yelling at my iPod and
That
asking
too.
questions and no one answers. So that's every 3 weeks out of the month. That's what's happening, and then the fourth week I get to actually ask you guys in person. So it's a treat for me.
Well, that's just fantastic. Well, we're really close to that goal, so check it out, patreon.com/ITN if you are wanting to support us. This week, thank you to Taylor H., David T., Stephen C., Christian K., Ollie C., Brooke M., Sam G., and Daniel T., and also our fine Patreon producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, I see hanging out in the chat room, hey man, and we have a new Patreon producer, Mythdoll, pushing us very close to that next goal of Dunk Train, so thank you for the support, everyone. Other than that, find every darn episode of Into the Nexus at amove.tv. Hey, if you're a podcast listener, you may have noticed our podcast feed actually goes back to the 100 most recent episodes as opposed to only the 20 most recent. I finally figured out how to do that on Squarespace. It turns out, though, 100 is the cap. That's as far as I can make it go back, and I'm not moving. I'm sorry, I'm not moving thousands of podcast episodes to something else to do that. So if you want to go back further than 100 episodes, amove.tv/ITN for the entire back catalog, or youtube.com/amovetv. Catch us live Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on twitch.tv/amovetv, or you can also find it on the go at alphageekmedia.com. You can follow us on Twitter at ITNcast, and we got to thank Gorath, who we actually got to meet in person this weekend, for our intro music, and BrianGriffithMusic.com for our outro music. Kyle, where can folks find you?
This week, find me over at youtube.com/Kyle Fergusson. Of course, the streams are back. I'm back from trips, from weddings for the year. It's looking like I'll get to lock in for a good long time. So check those out at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. It will be Team League this weekend. Back with Bo, John, Scott Johnson, and Kristen as we take the Team League and do those placements. But of course, if you haven't checked them out yet, check out those videos I did with Cavalier Guest. There's a font of knowledge in there. And if you are interested in expanding your thought process to what's coming next, particularly these timing attacks that we've alluded to in the past, check out those videos.
Awesome. Jeff, how about you, sir? Where can folks find your work around the web?
I have a lot of it. There's Twitter, of course. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Kanata if you want to hear somebody talk about video games and then complain about politics. That's the place I do that. And I have a video game show, actually every single day, 7 days a week. I do a quick hit video game show on Anchor, which is a really cool new platform. You can find my show. It's called Newest, Latest, Best, and you can find that at anchor.fm/NLB. I also have a long-form video game show that's every Monday. It's called DLC, and you can find that at 5by5.tv/DLC. In fact, Garrett is going to be our guest next Monday, so tune in for that, if nothing else. And I have lots of other shows as well. I won't waste everybody's time, but follow me on Twitter, and you can find them.
I'm very excited to be on DLC on Monday. I'm actually a big fan of the show. Never been on, and
Oh, thanks.
I don't think I've ever been on any show with you other than this one. I'd invite you on my own show to get on a podcast with you.
I think we were both on Patrick Beja's show one time, sitting at Nerdacular.
Oh, you're right. We
true?
were on that, and I did crash a night attack after I told a really not safe for work story live at Nerdacular. I believe that was my first contact with you, and I'm surprised you ever agreed to come on a show with me again. So if you want to go look up a night attack live from Nerdacular from I don't know what year, but I don't want you to find it that bad, but it can be found. So go listen to that, I guess. But looking forward to being on it. Folks, you can find me on Twitter at Garrett Art, 2 R's and 2 T's in Garrett. Everything else is over at amove.tv. And, well, there's a lot of Hearthstone stuff going on, so go check out the Angry Chicken. That's what I'll pimp this week. That's going to do it for this episode. If you are a patron, hang around, because we've got a lot more stuff to do to hang around after the show for. So go, don't go. Don't go anywhere. And if you're not a patron in the live show right now, that's the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, good luck and have fun.
Take care.